Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. This is another episode of Wireframe brought to you by Design Systems House. I'm your host, Donnie D'Amato, and today we're going to be coming from the feed. That's right. We're going to be looking at some posts from the internet, basically some news articles that I've saved over the past couple of days or maybe the past week or so, and just see what's going on out there. Again, admittedly, I don't have a lot of time to do the pre-production that I would normally like to do for this show, or I shouldn't say even normally. I haven't really done pre-production for the show yet, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. But I have a lot of stuff that's going on this week, or I guess in the next couple of months. As you should know, I have a book that's obviously coming out, and Converge is coming up right around the corner. In fact, I've been doing the outline for the talk. I have the talking points set up for myself. So now it's just the slow process for me to do the pre-production on that such that it's a really good show. And it's really important for me for Converge to actually really go well. I mean, if you want to know what my pre-production is all about, for this show, what I want it to be, that basically what I'm going to be doing on stage is kind of the amount of preparation that I want to have for this show, generally speaking. But fact is, I got a lot of stuff going on, so we're just going to talk about some news things that are happening on the internet. So let's go to my my feed and see what's going on in there. The first thing I have actually already queued up because it is just bad news bears, really it is. Here it is. This is a post that's talking about some news from Salesforce. Salesforce's CEO confirms that there's 4,000 job cuts because I need less heads, okay, with AI, all right? And here, the thing that Adam here is talking about in particular is, and I don't know if Adam had any relation to Salesforce or not, but he says that Mark, who's the CEO of Salesforce, back in 2019, 6 years ago, said, "The best teams play together like a family who trust one another to have their back." And now, in 2025, I've reduced it to from 9,000 heads to about 5,000 because I need less heads, from family to heads, in 6 years. Right? This is something I am very sensitive to. I see it from peers of mine in the tech industry, looking around at the landscape, seeing how much AI is driving businesses, okay? And I'm admittedly very concerned. And the fact of the matter is I'm not against AI. I mean, in fact, I've used AI today and for the past couple of days, nearly for the entire day to do the work that I need to get done. Specifically, I'm trying to build this Chrome extension for work to help with visualizing themes and things of that nature. And there's some really complex things that need to happen in there that admittedly, you get it done faster with AI. And even some of the smaller stuff, I tell it, okay, delete these methods that you added for no reason. Go ahead and, add these instead or whatever, and guiding it obviously. But the amount of AI that I'm using to get the job done is significant. It's there. And I can't, not say that there's a benefit, of course, to AI. However, I'm worried about, what it's really going to do to the job market out there. It's scary, right? For potentially someone that has less experience than me to effectively make the exact same result that I'm making without really knowing what they're building, and then shipping that as, hey, we're done, and then not realizing that this is actually a problem, and security situations that we've already seen in the news that prop up. And I'm wildly concerned about that stuff. I'm wildly concerned about a significantly serious and well-respected, we'll call it in quotes, application that ends up being vibe coded underneath the hood. I'm very worried about that, and I'm especially worried. Of course, we talked about it the other week about the new American by Design initiative, where my expectation there is that with the new regime that's going in, suspect there's going to be a lot of vibe coding in there too. Unfortunately, I've already heard of a couple of alleged breaches and things of that nature in that direction. Nothing that I can speak to specifically because I don't know enough about what's happening in there or follow it directly enough to like really pin it down. But from what I'm hearing, bad news bears, right? Unlike what we've seen before. So there's some inevitability to this about CEOs wanting to, of course, cut costs and make money, but at the cost of people, right? The people who built the company and of those things like that. It leaves a barely bad taste in your mouth. And I think a lot of people need to reconsider directions that they're taking in their careers, right? I mean, I'm just seeing like UX in general just being like a minefield of what to do. The people that are in the course that I teach at Parsons, I had lots of students in there going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do after I finish this course. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of actually don't know either. And that's a lot of, unfortunately, reason why that curriculum is no longer going to exist. I'm actually teaching students out of that program because it's not going to survive. Meanwhile, when I was interviewing with Pratt, half of their curriculum is AI. Half of it, legitimately. The only thing that I had in there that might have been up my alley was some HCI course. But yeah, it's taken the world by storm. So something to pay attention to, of course, in here. And I just, don't like the idea. I mean, admittedly, I don't really like Salesforce generally overall anyway. But moving on to something that I think is actually a really nice commentary. And I want to actually just scroll down a little bit because I want you to see the image first before we start talking about the actual content here. So the image that we're seeing right now is of an old school console that you would see in, I guess this is, oh God, what is that logo? Some expensive logo. I think it's Mercedes-Benz. I think that's what that is. God, I don't know expensive cars, folks. But it is an older version of this car, and all you see on here, well, I shouldn't say all, the majority of what you see on here are physical tactile buttons. And admittedly, actually, all of the buttons here are physical tactile buttons, or things that you could touch. All right. What I was kind of pointing out with my eyes afterwards was I noticed there's a couple of LCD screens right there, right? And those are things that are giving you feedback that you have to, of course, look at. But, there is absolutely something about physical buttons, okay? There is something really great about those physical buttons. And I want to talk a little bit more about this because specifically in car experiences, right? We've seen lots of experiences that are trying to put what is effectively a tablet inside of the car for you to go ahead and control things in. And that's just bad news as it is today. I think there could be a world where technology gets advanced enough where we could have a hybrid between this old school stuff here and the tactile buttons and the new school stuff. I've seen a little bit, and you probably have even seen this too, of the ability to put smaller screens inside of buttons, right? Like the Stream Deck, really good example of that, right? When streaming got really big during the pandemic, lots of people buying Stream Decks, lots of people customizing those in the ways that they wanted to customize it. I think there might be something a little bit to the ability to take this interface, right, these physical buttons, and customize them to the way that you want the vehicle to operate. I think there's something really to that because the reason why these digital interfaces in cars aren't working is because you have to take your eyes off the road in order to move your sausage finger to the area of the UI that's going to make the change in your car, right? right, in your experience. And it becomes even worse when you have to go through multiple menus to get to the thing that you're looking for. Okay, really good example of this. I have Android Auto in my car, and when I need to go somewhere for an appointment, it's in my calendar. So what I'll do is I'll get into the car, and Android Auto would spin up eventually. It takes a little while to connect, but eventually gets up. And I would click on or tap on the calendar icon that's up there. I tap on the calendar icon, then I would have my calendar, or at least anything that has an address on it, which a lot of things actually do. And then I would have to tap the address to then say, okay, this is where I'm going. And then I'd have to then confirm that this is where we're going to be navigating to, right? Because all it does is kind of show you this is the location. Is this something you want to actually go to, right? So there's a lot of taps in there. Now, granted, at that moment in time, I'm probably still in my driveway, right? Because if I don't know where necessarily I'm going, then I need to set myself up so that I know that I'm going to get there, right? So that particular example just says how many taps I might need to get somewhere in the menu. But there's another problem specifically with my car. So I have a Kia, and in the Kia, some of the models, they had a touch bar underneath the main screen that would change between like navigation and maps and settings and things like that. So it would have that as one of the options. And then you would have to flip with like a press to your climate settings. And the knobs on both sides, they actually change their, input, what they're actually going to be affecting. So when it has like map and navigation and all that kind of stuff, and radio technically, the knobs are actually affecting volume. But when you switch the interface and it's climate now, the knobs affect the intensity of the climate. I can't tell you the number of times that I've tried to shut the radio off and turned off the climate instead. So, not great, right? But again, thinking about this idea, right, where you say, look, here are the things that I use most often, right? Most often, I'm going to go ahead and use something like, the radio on off, right? I want to use, climate settings most often. Maybe some navigation stuff, right? I would love to go ahead and customize a layout like this older layout with, my preferences. I think that would be excellent, right? I think that would be the perfect thing to do. So anyway, but what do you think you should do? Go ahead and leave some comments down there below. I'm going to go on to the next thing. I have, I think, at least two other things that I want to talk about. Let's talk about some bad UIs. All right, I'm going to post up this picture. I don't want to put the person's name over here because I don't want to necessarily blow this person up. But let me open image new tab. Okay, great. All right, let's go here. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this. All right. So what we have in front of you here, if you're just listening in, we have two screens. There's a before and after, okay? And the idea here is that it looks like it's some plumbing service, okay? So it's a business page, effectively. And the before and the after, overall, there's some UI changes in here. But overall, it's the same kind of structure. I'm going to try to explain. So at the top, there's a big hero image, and there's like an avatar underneath there for both of them. Title, reviews, that's on both of them as well. Then below that is where things start to change. So on the before side, what we have is this dark green bar that says service type plumbing available, and then this range of $25 to $40. Then below that, there's this like tab bar. It says overview, recent work, and reviews. Overview is currently selected. Below that, there's specialization with leak repairs, pipe fixing, water heater and gas services, bathroom and cleaning plumbing. And then there's an about with some stuff down there. And then there's a next availability, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. book now. Okay, so that's what on the left-hand side. There's a couple other little things, but that's what's on the left side. Now here's the after. The after basically has these cards that say services. So there's the bathroom cleaning service. It's a card that has an image on it. It's a person like scrubbing something, and the bathroom cleaning says $25, $30. There's a review specifically for that cleaning. The next thing is a card next to it that says pipe fixing, 4.5 reviews. Then there's some tabs that say about us, location, store reviews, and then there's a specialization. And then there's icons that are like home, calendar, message, and an avatar of some sort. And here's the thing that's weird for me. There's a lot different between these two things. And the thing that I think bothers me the most about the post that I'm actually referencing, but I'm not going to tell you about, is that this person's actually talking about contrast. So this person was trying to say, hey, this is what, this is why contrast is so important, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, just the IA between these two things is wildly different, right? And I would even argue that the left-hand side is a lot better than the right-hand side. And I'm going to say that for a couple of reasons. Now, granted, it's hard to make a generic business page exist on a platform that's normally using for business. But in this particular case, talking about the content that I'm dealing with right now, if I'm looking for plumbing, right, I want to know that the thing that I'm looking for is plumbing. So on the left-hand side where it says plumbing, service types plumbing, $25 to $40, and it's available, that's really good. The fact that I could book it now, that's really good, right? Like, I really like the fact that these things are being called out. Like, hey, you probably need a plumber, so go ahead. Here's all the things that are important to you so that you can make a decision on this plumber. The thing that I will also say about this is that there are a lot of things vying for your attention, right? But that's really easy to fix, with color, right? And I say colors don't solve problems all the time, and colors here are actually creating the problem, right? The colors on the side over here, this left side, the before, they're actually creating a problem because there's too much color, right? What probably should have happened instead was you could subdue a little bit of the plumbing service type $25, $40 thing a little bit, right? You could subdue the overview in the same way that on the right side we have, these tab bars here. That tab bar could be the exact same style as this tab bar without this color, right? And then the plumbing type service situation that's here, right? You could have that as a card that looks like that, maybe with or without the image. I'm not sure about that, but that subdues this as well. So you move that card, or at least the style of that card, over like this. And now the only things that are really like vying for your attention are certainly the book now button, right? Because it's big and thick and colorful. And maybe, this call now button, right? And admittedly, I also, will agree with the after that, yeah, this looks a little bit nicer as a lockup. I don't know what these icons are necessarily giving me over here, right? I do like to know that this person is in Brooklyn in terms of, location and how close they are. I don't see that up front here necessarily. I think these images are not really helping me, in terms of like, oh, look, it's a tub. Like, I don't think that's actually helping me in terms of making a decision here. I think, me making a decision is, okay, they're available. Here's the price. This is the next availability, book now, right? If I'm going to go ahead and have a serious problem that I need to deal with. So is this an improvement? In some ways, but in terms of like contrast, no, it's not an improvement in terms of contrast. I will say it's an improvement in terms of hierarchy, right? In terms of use of color between these two things, right? Because there's too much vying for attention over on the before side. But here on the after, it's not giving me the same amount of information, the same importance of information that's over here on the left, right? So that's the thing that I'm really like kind of trying to talk about here is that there's ways of moving forward, and then in that moving forward, you could be also moving backwards, right? So I think it also really does stress the importance of wireframing, right? Here, call back to the name of the show. It really does stress the importance of this because if you have a solid wireframe that depicts the correct IA that users would benefit from, then you could start tweaking expressions of that wireframe, right? So you can, consider more muted colors and more rounded radiuses and different topography, right? But the IA doesn't change. Between these two things, we're getting IA that's changing and we're getting expressions that are changing. It's too much. You've changed way too much at once. And it would be very difficult for you to, get any valuable data out of even testing this, right? Because it's just too different from the before. But that's what I have to say about that. You can go ahead and leave comments on that one too. All right, let's go to the next one. And I think this is going to be the last one, actually. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at this. All right. Oh boy. Look at this UI. All right. Again, for the people that are listening and not watching, I'm sorry, but we have to look at this. I don't even know how to explain this. I don't even know how to explain this for people who are listening in, because you really have to see what I'm looking at here. What I'm looking at is some user interface. Looks like it has icons with labels. I don't even know if I can call them buttons or not. It's really hard to say. And each one of these icons with a label on them, they seem to all be different in some way. They have some sort of cohesive look to them, but the graphics or illustrations or whatever you want to call it that are assigned to these things are really, really abstract. And the person who this post is attached to actually says that they're really proud of this UI, and even better yet, the user is happy. And it really makes me think. So I think about a story that I heard from the folks at Knapsack. Chris Strahl was talking about this story where I think they went skiing somewhere and they were talking tech in some little part of the lodge. And there was a person that was overhearing and says, what do you people do? And they were talking about, okay, we do tech. And then Chris, I think, asked, well, what do you do? He says, I drive tugboats, I think he said. And they got into a conversation because that's a very, unique job, especially when we're talking about, just tech all day, right? It's nice to hear that there's other jobs out there sometimes. You might need to have one of those. But yeah, I guess they eventually got into this conversation about how there is an interface that tugboat drivers use to give them information about, where they are in the water and I guess how much they're pulling and their weight. And I'm sure there's lots of other metadata that they're being shown. And I think there's something really interesting behind that, because we could come as a UX designer, go into look at that interface and say, this could be way better, right? We could make improvements here. We could be more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. And if you give that to the tugboat driver, it's entirely possible that they will become slower because you've made too many changes, right? You've made it more generalized for the general population to potentially be a tugboat driver, when that's not really the audience that you're trying to direct this experience to, right? You're directing it to tugboat drivers, and tugboat drivers are specifically looking for a particular kind of interface and experience, right? So when you look at something that's abstract as what I showed you earlier, with all these different kind of illustrations and stuff like that, I first get a visceral reaction and say, how could that possibly help anybody? But when you take a step back and you say, well, hold on a second, this was for a specific user, whatever user that is, that's a win. Now, the hard thing to balance in some of this is the impact, right? Because a person, obviously, spent time building this, making this, designing this, doing the work to make this thing, all for potentially just one other person. And that's why it's so difficult for us to justify something like inclusive design. much of us are practicing universal design, right? That's the ability to go ahead and make an interface such that the majority of people can use it, right? The next step to that is meant to be inclusive design, where the design, kind of what I was mentioning earlier with the car interface, where the design is catered specifically to that individual user. And when that happens, that user, of course, feels seen, but also can be a lot more efficient in what they do because that interface is specifically for them, right? So there's a balance here, right? Because on the one hand, is it cost effective to build a single interface for a single user? Probably not, right? Because especially if you're going to go ahead and try to make a living off this, you'd have to find other users that need these bespoke experiences and then cater to them for however long that it takes to go ahead and do that. You'd have to be charging some serious money in order to keep that up. But best case scenario, the quality of the work that you're producing is very good and justifies that kind of pricing, and you can again find clients that want something like this, more power to you. But on the flip side, that does seem a little wasteful, right? On the other hand, right? Just talking about economically speaking, if we were to make, bespoke products for each individual person, right? I mean, just think about how often Lego needs to change its molds. It doesn't do it often because it's so expensive to make a new mold of a Lego piece. It's much more cost effective to continue to use the same molds that they've been using for a long time, right? Then they don't have to, put all of the manufacturing costs underneath making it a specific new mold for this specific set, right? So there's something behind that in particular. So when it comes to economics, I don't know much about it, but when we're talking about universal design versus inclusive design, there's pros and cons to both, right? I think digitally things end up being a lot cheaper, right? So go ahead and make an interface. It's the reason why I kind of got into this, is because I could build things on the internet without having to purchase physical stuff. There's a big benefit to that. But there's still an amount of resources, time and effort, and even money in some cases, to potentially build bespoke experiences. So there's costs associated with that, and I think in many cases it would be better to build for more people than it would be necessarily to build for one. But I'm sure, like I said, inclusive design is definitely the holy grail in all the stuff that we're doing, especially from an accessibility standpoint as well. To have an interface cater to you, like, again, my car example, would be really great. And I think, again, there's a balance between, hey, could we make an interface like this where you as the user can enter in your own graphics that resonate with you such that you could be more efficient in your job, or move these items in places where you could be more efficient in your job. There's a lot of exploration that can be done in there, and a lot of places for customization, personalization that could, I think, benefit from this, right? Because you don't necessarily need to ship the bespoke experience, but you can ship something that can become bespoke. I think that's important. But again, let me know what you think. I definitely do want to know. Actually, speaking of wanting to know stuff, I want to know, is this working? No, it's not. All right, I used to have something, I tried to code something in here where this button that's down here, I don't know if you can see it. Are you seeing it? No. The button that's down here on the site would actually turn red if I was live, if you actually refresh the page. But I guess it's not really working so well. But I figured I'd try because we were still on the computer. It's okay. It's all right. But what else do we got? I've been posting a couple more jobs over on the Discord. If you are interested, you can go to the Discord that's down there, discord.ds.house. I think I might have gotten one person to join since the last time I tried that. But I posted a couple more jobs over there if you are interested. Again, I really need to figure out what Discord is all about at some point. I'm going to call that a 2026 problem. Hell, maybe I'll just use AI to figure that out, right? Or, I do have AI right here. Should I ask AI about how to Discord? Maybe we'll do that. Let's find out, what does AI think about Discord here? Let's figure this out. What's the first thing that I need to learn about Discord? Tell me. Here we go. Okay. I have a Discord server, and I really am having some difficulty setting it up. I have a free version of the whole thing, so I don't know how far I'm able to take it, but what's some good stuff that would be beneficial to add to the server to give it a little bit more life and a little bit more character? What do you think?
Here are some ideas for adding life to your Discord server, even with a free version. Set up channels to divide conversations into different topics, making navigation easier. Add a music bot to play users' favorite tracks, or have bot games for users to play together. Set up roles and permissions to manage server members and access to certain features. Add custom emotes or GIFs for use to express themselves and make text messages more interesting. Hold events like giveaways or challenges to keep users engaged and create a sense of community.
Okay, those are good ideas. I wasn't sure if you could do custom emojis in the free version. Is that possible?
Yes, even on Discord's free version, you can create and use custom emojis for your server. To add a custom emoji, you can use the following steps. 1. Go to your Discord server settings and select emojis on the left-hand sidebar. 2. Click Create Emoji to upload a custom image to use as an emoji. 3. Once uploaded, you'll be able to share the emoji within your server.
Okay, thanks for that. The server that I'm working with is not really like a gaming server. It would be more of a professional server. Think of using Slack as Discord, if that makes any sense. What kind of, accoutrement should I be considering for that kind of setup?
Sure, here are some ideas for a professional Discord server setup with a focus similar to Slack. Set up channels for different departments or projects to keep conversations organized. Integrate with tools like Google Drive or Asana to share documents and manage tasks. Have notification settings for important updates, meeting reminders, etc., etc. Set up user permissions for different levels of access, and consider role-based features. Establish guidelines for conversation and communication to keep conversations professional and respectful.
Okay, I think I've done all that, but I don't think it's all that great. But all right, I have to spend some other time with that next year potentially. We'll see what happens. But if you have any ideas, you could absolutely again leave those in the comments, or go to the Discord and offer them there instead. I really appreciate that. In terms of events that are going on this particular week, let me look at my calendar, because I've been really, really bad at updating DS events, as an example. And in fact, the domain for that just renewed, and it hit me really hard. So I really need to put some more work into that one. But in terms of things that are going on this coming up this particular week, let's see what we have here. So the next event that I know of is going to be React NYC. That's going to be on the 16th of this month, September. I will be speaking at that event. So at that event, it'll just be, I guess, mostly React developers, but the topic that I'll be discussing is, what is a component? You might be familiar with that if you've gone to either the UXDX meetup that I performed that, or the Smashing Lightning talk that I also did at Figma. It's the same content effectively. I think the slight difference here is that the majority of the folks that will be in this room is most likely going to be React developers. And I suspect that they will have a more closer to concrete idea of what a component is, because it is a lot easier to define a component when it comes to development than it is when it comes to design. But I'm going to give them a couple of curveballs to think about, especially doing, design handoff. I mean, having that communication between design and engineering is really important. But that's going to be on for the next week or so. And then, or not next week, but the 16th. And then the 25th, which is the following week, there is a meetup here in Long Island. It's the Cause of a Kind meetup at the Flux Cafe in Farmingdale. Full disclosure, I will not be at that one because we're going on a family vacation. So I apologize that I won't be for that one. I actually don't think I've missed a single one until now, or this one coming. So enjoy without me. Hopefully you get a chance to meet some people over there. That meetup is going great. I am very jealous of that meetup. Again, things that I really want to do is start a meetup, but I got too many things going on and I got to really tone it down. But anyway, those are the things that I know that are going on. I don't think there's a question this week. But I do know there's Redwood stuff going on. Definitely go over to bencallahan.com. I think that's what it is, maybe hyphen in there. And I know he's been promoting a lot of stuff. I think there's something going on in Columbus, in Ohio, where he's around. And there's some Redwood stuff going on that I really want to be a part of, but I'm just so busy. If you have an ability to be a part of that stuff, I think that would be really great to join in on his community instead. Anyway, I think that'll wrap it up for today. Let me know what you think in the comments. Play nice down there, and I'll see you next time. Bye.